Hi, welcome everyone. My name is Kimberly Chatto. I'm part of the marketing team for the Planting Roots organization, and I'm so excited to welcome Kasey Reyes Stout to the podcast today. She is the operations manager for Planting Roots, and she's had experience being part of the community team. And she is a recently transitioning from active duty Air Force officer to a reservist. And Kasey, we're just excited to have you on the podcast today. Welcome.
Thank you. So excited to be here.
Absolutely. And one of the reasons why we have Kasey on the podcast today is because we are so excited to be welcoming our new project, the Invitation Project, this coming May. And we have a series of podcast episodes featuring some of the incredible authors that contributed to this Bible study. And Kasey is one of them with her section on serving side by side. So we're just excited to dive in. What was that experience like for you, Kasey, contributing to the Invitation Project?
It was awesome. I was really excited about this theme when we introduced it and just the idea of how we invite others, into this realm of hospitality, but also like into our lives with Jesus, and being able to shine his light in that way. It's just really unique in the military. So yeah, I was excited.
Can you share a moment when hospitality was modeled for you in a way that really just stuck with you?
Yeah, there are two things that come to mind. First is when I was growing up, one of my best friends, her family was the most welcoming family. Like, and they were it was a big Hispanic family, and they always had people in and out of their house. And I just loved going over there growing up because, like, there was always good food, and just her mom would give me a hug when I walked through the door, and like their house was never perfect. Like everything in place. Like, there was always toys around from, like, little siblings, and there were things, like, just everywhere, but it was totally okay because they welcomed you in. They told you to, like, grab something from the kitchen, and so that was just a great example for me to be like, "Okay, you don't have to have everything perfect to have people over, and have them feel loved and welcomed." And so that came to mind. And then the other thing that came to mind was, um, when I was in college, there was a ministry couple that was really big mentors for myself and my husband, and, they had people over to their house all the time, and it was great to see kind of how they opened their house up to different people and just the different activities they did while they were at their home, and just the way that they did different things on a practical level as well, just was great to see, like, hospitality played out in a godly way and in a way that I feel like I wanted to embody myself down the road.
I love that. Thank you for sharing those examples and just a little bit from your life. I think that's one of the things that I really appreciate about the Invitation Project is that from a military perspective, but even if people don't have an affiliation with the military, it's just really letting people come into your life as is because it kind of um, is this shared personhood with another person. Just like, hey, come in.
Yeah.
This is me. This is my life. We just want to embrace you as is. And I love that. Was there a season when inviting people in felt exciting and another season or time when it just felt overwhelming?
Yeah, I think it felt super exciting when my husband and I first got married because, like, when we were dating, we talked about wanting to host people, and that was something we really wanted to do together, and especially after being mentored by this couple in college, like, we were just so excited to hit that part of our lives. And it was funny because we got married in the summer of 2019, and then COVID hit, right? Like 6 months after that. So then we couldn't have people over. But yeah, just that initial time, like when we were new in our marriage and figuring that out, along with like figuring out how to host people what like in a place of our own was just a really sweet time. So that definitely pretty exciting. Um, for when it feel has felt overwhelming, there's been there's been a few times, and I think one of the times that comes to mind is, I mean, in this current season right now, we have a baby, and so we're trying to figure out how to be parents. And when we're having people over that don't have kids, or you know what I mean, or don't have a baby, then it's like, oh gosh, what do we do with the baby? And so some of that feels overwhelming. Just depends on the couple and everything. But yeah, we definitely find ways to still do it, but it can feel overwhelming.
Well, I can totally relate. And having little children, and you're going into a space, it makes all the difference if people are like, "Just come in, it's totally okay."
Yeah.
And there's also that aspect of like, it's totally okay as is. And then there's also the perspective of like, okay, I appreciate that you said it, but you have breakable things all over, or like you're
Right.
not childproof. And I'm like, this is a very stressful situation. And so
Yeah.
I can definitely relate. Now, kind of going back to your specific chapter on serving side by side, when serving alongside a spouse, roommate, or friend, how do your differences actually strengthen the experience?
So I would say my husband and I are very different personalities. So I think it, and obviously he comes to mind first, just thinking about when we're talking about hosting people in our homes most recently. And so I think my default is to make sure people are comfortable and make sure people feel like they are in a space where they can relax, and like they have drink, food, whatever. And then my husband's very good at like explaining games or like kind of doing the logistics side of the house, I guess. And so it's cool that we kind of balance each other that way. And we're able to kind of address kind of both personalities too when they're in our home or different types of personalities. It's funny because like after if we have a big group over after they leave, like I'll talk about, oh, I connected with so and so, and he'll connect with totally different people. So just the different personalities, I think, just give you the opportunity to connect better with different people.
Well, I love that. I love how, as a couple, you're able to use those differences and like your strengths to help each other out to be like, hey, I can be hospitable to this type of person, and you have strengths in being hospitable to that type of person. So everyone feels included in your home. I think that's really beautiful. In First Peter 4, verses 9 through 10, we're called to offer hospitality without grumbling. Why do you think that part matters so much?
Think it matters because it's not about us. When we're called to serve others, it's not about how we feel, it's about how the other person is like received, how they're loved, how they're cared for. And so if you're doing it with a bad attitude, right, then like they'll probably be able to tell, first of all, but then also like you're making it about you then. And so I think that's really why.
Oh, I like that too. It's just like, hey, where is my heart and head posture as I go into this activity? And I think it's
Mhm.
very humbling to just be like, hey, why do I feel like this? Why am I making it about me? It's not about
Yeah.
me. I think that's so important. And I think we all could use that on a daily basis. So moving into our next set of questions here, how does Philippians chapter 2, verses 3 through 4 challenge our motives when we host or serve others?
I think similarly to the First Peter verses, like it talks about not doing anything out of selfish ambition and to like consider everyone above yourselves, or those verses. And so just thinking about how like when you are inviting people over, like what is your motivation for that? And I think we all have fallen into the trap sometimes of being like, oh, well, this could be fun for us, which is fine, right? It's okay for that to be fun for you too. But then, like, thinking about, well, what would they want to do when they come over, or like, how can we make them feel loved or what do they need right now? And I think, like, I keep talking about hosting from home, but thinking about hospitality going outward, right? Like if someone just had a baby or someone's in the hospital, like how can I serve them and consider them above my needs, and like there's a sacrifice element there. And so, yeah, definitely just remembering that perspective of like, how can I consider them above my needs right now?
I think there's so much goodness to that idea. I think in today's culture, it is so easy to slip into how can I best serve myself and what are my needs, and we have it both in a little tongue in cheek, like treat yourself kind of culture, but
Right.
also in some aspects, it's so easy to slide into this mentality of like it's to be inconvenienced in any way is a hardship on us. So I want to avoid that feeling. And so
Yeah.
to have a guest over and to truly open up your home and you're thinking proactively, like what would make this person feel seen and heard, that is a deliberate and intentional action to be like, hey, this is different, this is countercultural a bit. So what are the biggest barriers that make hospitality feel hard in your current season of life?
So I know I mentioned having a baby right now. I think that has made it difficult because now I'm starting to think about bedtimes, right? Like, oh, we have this person over past, or if they stay past whatever time, then it's interrupting our bedtime routine, and stuff like that. So I think some of that, like, season of life, is a barrier for sure.
This is a little off script, so for the audience, but as another mom, I was just
Mhm.
curious, how do you think, or what are ways, I don't know if you've thought about this or not, that you would feel seen or heard going to someone's home, especially with a baby? Like, or do you have examples of people who've asked you in advance, like, how can we make you feel either less anxious or less stressed coming to our home?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. So we've been really blessed. We're currently stationed at Ramstein, and we've just had connections from either like people saying, "Oh, connect with this couple," or like we knew someone from somewhere out, military circles, which is amazing. And a lot of them had young kids. They're a few years older than our baby, and so they kind of know. And so like we had a couple that invited us over, and they were like, "Oh, do you need a high chair?" Or like, "What?" Like, does he eat this food or this food? Does he have any allergies? Like here's a playpen. Like, feel free to throw him in the playpen while we're eating, and having resources available. Obviously, it's convenient if you have kids close in age, right? So they're going to have some of that stuff. But just making it feel like you're not a burden bringing a baby into a home, I think is such a huge thing because you're already like, okay, what am I going to do with this baby? Like, is he going to behave? Like, and you're worried about all the things because you want to be a good guest as well. So when they kinda set the stage of, like, "No worries," like, "Oh, change a diaper," like, "Feel free to do it right there," or, just and, like, making you feel comfortable with the baby's unpredictableness, I think has just spoken volumes for us, like, as we're navigating this new season of life.
I think that's, like, such a blessing in so many different ways because you have other parents who've been in that season who are like, "I remember what this felt like, and if someone had shown up for me in this way or done this, it would've made the situation a lot less stressful." And also, like,
Mhm.
I would say that, like, parents, especially new mothers, like, you need that connection, and so you don't wanna feel more isolated, but you almost unintentionally do so because you don't wanna inconvenience people. You don't want your baby to cry, you
Right.
don't wanna be like, I mean, I remember taking my son to a conference and I had the wrong change of clothes in the diaper bag and he had a
Oh, no.
blowout, and so he has a Southern Illinois onesie now. Did I go there? No, but we were there, so that's what we got. But you don't
Oh,
wanna inconvenience people, you don't wanna have him crying
yeah.
or anything like that, and so to have people see and hear you and they're just like, "No, it's fine. We
Mhm.
really want you here just the way you are," is such a
Yeah,
beautiful blessing, and I love that.
I agree.
Have there been times you almost didn't invite people over, but did anyway, and what happened?
Yes. I mean, of course, we all have those times where we like make plans and we have like a super busy day, right? We're exhausted. And then at the end of the day, you're like, oh, shoot, now I'm having people over for dinner, and it's like the last thing in the world you want to do. But it's funny because I feel like some of those nights where you're just like, oh, how am I going to do this? End up being the most fruitful in different ways. So, like, my husband and I were both stationed in Korea, and I mean, long days, right? You're tired, exhausted, and we were doing a CGO Bible study, and so we would have people come over in the evenings, and we would, take turns leading Bible study, and I just remember some of those nights, I was like, "Oh, it'd be so nice if they canceled, if, like, no one showed up," which is horrible, right? But on those nights, I feel like they were always the best. They just came out being like, "Oh, we had such a good conversation," or like, "This person opened up about this," like, and so I'm really thankful, when you to have those kinds of experiences to encourage you to keep going, and like give you that endurance and that, to keep persevering, I guess, in that way.
That's so funny that you had a CGO Bible study in Korea because I also had a particular Bible study in Korea too.
Oh,
And
nice.
we called it like Testimony Tuesdays because I swear something would always happen on Tuesdays. And so, again, after your long work day, I would have this
Yeah.
Bible study and something would happen during the day, like clockwork every Tuesday. And I was just like, man, I am so tired. Like,
Yeah.
I don't want to go there or do this thing. And every single time, I just knew that the fruit that I would glean from the experience was going to be such a blessing that I'm like, "Just go. Just go, even if you're in sweatpants,
Mhm.
even if you're in uniform, just go, it'll be fine." And I always thought too that, like, what else is going on in my life that is trying to prevent me from, like, leaning into this experience? Like, why is
Yeah.
there's so much goodness here, like, why is something trying to deter me? And so I love that idea of you're just like it's a very realistic perspective to be like, "Man, I kinda wish and hope it's canceled," so that you can just, like, exist. But
Yeah.
here we're, like, caused to, like, God wants to refine us and to challenge us and to keep growing us, and I think to do that in community is a great thing, and so, yeah, I appreciate you sharing that. I think it's so, so very real life for everybody.
Yeah.
Okay. So the next 2 questions are a little bit similar, and it's just talking about serving alongside other people and appreciation for that. What have you learned about yourself in serving alongside others that you wouldn't have learned otherwise?
So, bringing up that Bible study in Korea that my husband and I led, so basically we would alternate who led the study. And so it was really cool because both of us have done studies, but never like led studies, but never together. So that was, and that's something we've wanted since we first got married. So to have the opportunity was amazing in the first place. But then being able to see like his style when he leads, it's totally different than my style, but like just the goodness, and being able to appreciate that as both my husband, but then also just like as my brother in Christ and just the way that people react to him and just seeing his strengths, it was just awesome because he's way more like academic and logical than I am, where I'm more like applicable to life and like, let's talk about how we feel, like, and so being able to see our differences and when one person was leading, how the other person could balance with like the question time and with the discussion, it was just, it was a gift for sure.
Well, thank you so much for sharing. That just like brought the smile to my face just thinking about like the goodness in that partnership. And it wasn't just like your husband, but also referencing him as your brother in Christ. And you're just like, yes, we're truly doing life in this pursuant of glorifying God. And you get to do that together. I think that's beautiful.
Right.
Okay, so we are just about to wrap up. We've got one more question here. What does sharing the load look like practically for you when hosting or leading?
When I think of, like, the practical, and people coming over to our house, typically, like, I usually worry about, well, actually, it's changed since we've had a baby, but typically, I worry about, like, the food, the drinks, like, and making sure people are comfortable and they feel they feel like they're in a safe space, all of that. And then we host game nights. That's one of the things that we've done kind of everywhere we've been. And so my husband is really, really good at explaining game rules. And so he usually is like picking out the game and then the one to explain all the rules and make sure everyone understands it before we play. And I really appreciate that because I hate doing that. Like that is not my jam at all. And so I love us being able to kind of partner in that because we kind of know what our spaces are going to be and how we're going to like, you know, um, just handle the people when they're over and everything. And so, yeah, definitely being able to kind of settle into those as we've over the years as we've been married and had people over in different places, it's just been really fun to see.
Okay, now I want to ask Casey this particular question because we invited all our participants from this amazing online app event that we had a few weeks ago. And in case you're not part of the Mighty app, we do have a planning route segment on the Mighty app. We have a phenomenal community. It's just a great place to fellowship, to meet other Christian women who are affiliated with the military. So we highly recommend it. But one of the questions, I'm probably paraphrasing, but what is God calling you to in this season?
Oh, yes. I think, I mean, what comes to mind right now, honestly, is like one day at a time because that is how I feel like I've been getting through the last few months, and in a new season of life with being a parent and being in a new place and now being a reservist instead of active duty, like there's been a lot of identity shift and just lots of things where I'm trying to figure out, okay, where do I land now? What does my life look like now? And so just taking it one day at a time and like, how can I take care of my son better today? How can I like work remotely better? How can I do all of these things like today? Because if I look 5 or 10 years down the road at this moment, I'm like overwhelmed. And so I think God has given me a lot of grace in the sense of just sit with him each day, and he'll take care of me each day. He promises that. And so I can just trust him as the days, one day at a time, I can trust him. So I think that's really kind of where my heart is right now.
Yeah, so much goodness in that response. I wholeheartedly relate to that. And So that wraps up our formal part of our podcast. We're so excited to have the Invitation Project released and be published this coming May. But it is part of a greater organization and ministry called Planning Roots. And like we did in the intro, Kasey has been part of the community team and now is our operations manager. And again, I'm hitting Kasey with all these impromptu questions.
Oh,
But Kasey, just for those who might not be familiar with Planning Roots, but either feel called by the ministry or might want to volunteer, what has your experience been like volunteering with Planning Roots, and any advice on getting involved?
yeah, absolutely. So I started volunteering with Playing Roots back in 2020. I found out about them during COVID and when they did a virtual event. And so I've done different things. First, I was on the events team and then community, and then now doing some operations things. But I would say just go onto our website and click on like our team, and you can kind of see the different teams that make up Planning Roots. And there also shows like vacant positions. So if there's something on there specifically that interests you, but just like I literally reached out and I'm like, I don't know what I want to do, but I want to be part of this. And so that's how I got involved. So if you are interested and you just want to be part of a community of ladies that love the Lord and want to serve military women and wives in this capacity, like it definitely is a way to get there's a place for you with NPR. Absolutely.
I could not agree more. It's a phenomenal ministry. We welcome everyone. We want you to be a part of this. And if you're not ready to volunteer necessarily, we highly encourage you to join our fellowship, our two fellowship, and join our community on the app. But thank you again, Kasey, so much. I'm so excited for the book release to happen in May and for everyone to read your chapter. And we just thank you for your time. You're such a blessing and gift for us at PR.
Thank you so much, Kim. I appreciate it.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for joining us, and have a wonderful week.